MDI Ventures have developed an end-to-end investment ecosystem stretching from ideation to pre-IPO stage through multiple investment vehicles.
Recording in progress.
We are currently managing several unique funds with a different angle, contributing to all stages of investment. MDI operates a set of multi-stage funds with separate independent investment committees to efficiently administer the fund while supporting the startups throughout their life cycle.
We bring innovation and best practices from startup to accelerate Telkom and national transformation.
To maximize portfolio value within Telkom Group, MDI developed a digital synergistic ecosystem within the corporation.
In 2019, MDI Ventures became the best performing corporate venture capital in Indonesia with a record 3 acquisitions and 2 IPOs. MDI is increasingly demonstrating its existence by successfully obtaining funding worth $500 million in 2020. For this achievement, MDI Ventures won the award as Indonesia Best Venture Capital 2020 and contributed to supporting startup breakthroughs in the pandemic era. With more than $830 million in assets under management, MDI Ventures is now the largest corporate venture capital company in Indonesia and will be over $1 billion by 2024.
By facilitating synergy with startup, we empower the growth of digital entrepreneurship and help build the region's startup ecosystem. We deliver synergy value for Telkom Group and state-owned enterprise by ecosystem building.
MDI Indonesia aims to be the preferred CVC in Indonesia by delivering growth for startups and for Telkom through impactful and transformative digital ecosystem building for the state-owned enterprise. We catalyze the growth of the best-of-class and proven startups by giving them access and opportunity to participate in the customer base of the state-owned enterprise.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Indonesia Pavilion at Expo 2020 Dubai. Ladies and gentlemen, our program for today is Business Matching, held by Telkom Indonesia and MDI Ventures, with the topic is Tech Investing in Indonesia and Southeast Asia. We are live from Expo 2020 Dubai at Indonesia Pavilion, and this Business Matching also live on Instagram and YouTube Telkom Indonesia. It is the great honor for me to welcome everybody here to join us, and we are going to have great speaker to share knowledge and news, also experience and expertise. We are going to have a speaker from partner at Arise MDI Ventures, Mr. Aldi Adrian Hartanto. To start, we would like to welcome our moderator today. Ladies and gentlemen, big applause for Mrs. Sarah Usman, Head of Investor Relation and Capital Rising MDI Ventures. Mrs. Sarah Usman, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Welcome everyone. Thank you for coming today to this session. In this session, we will discuss the tech investment landscape in Indonesia and how MDI Ventures help building the startup ecosystem in Indonesia. And I'm Sarah. I'm a head of investor relations and capital raisings from MDI Ventures. And here with me, I have Aldi, who is a partner of Arise by MDI Ventures. How are you, Aldi?
Very good. How are you, sir?
Good, thank you. So Aldi, how are you? And this is the first time come to Dubai?
Yes, this is actually my first time. It's been a while. I really want to go to Middle East and looking at this such a beautiful place, right? And good to know that we are very welcome here and been hearing a lot of great things about the ecosystem as well. So really excited to see more of this.
Okay, and yeah, I'm very excited to share about MDI's investor relations and also investing in the tech ecosystem in Indonesia. So Aldi, can you explain maybe to the audience how you see the progress from the early stage of investments up till now, how the tech investments in Indonesia has developed.
Right. Thanks for the question, sir. Again, very much welcome and thanks for coming, everyone. And to reintroduce, my name is Aldi. I'm currently leading the investment activities of MDI Ventures alongside with our newest early stage investment initiative called Arise, which is also in collaboration with another venture capital firm called Venture Capital from Europe. The idea was primarily to cover mainly the very first stage of the development of startups, which is primarily ideation of pre-seed or seed, which allows us to be able to back them until along the way to pass it to MDI Ventures. So MDI Ventures, and as you may know, we are primarily backed by Telkom Indonesia, which is the largest digital telco companies in Indonesia and also Southeast Asia. We aspire to be able to offer multiple digital offering and solutions to multiple stakeholders that we have, whether it's actually what you call it, the individuals, companies, private and public organization and sectors, right? Which is MDI role is primarily to really be able to cover multiple initiative and the development of the tech space, especially not only just in Indonesia, but also other markets, including Southeast Asia and also the other places like the US and as well, which from our point of view, I think, especially from my side personally, I've been in the industry not that long. I've been around since 2012, 2013. Back at the time, obviously startup and also VC is not even a job, right? Not even a word, even. Back at the time, even myself at the moment, still finding hard to really explain, for example, to my families, parents, partners, and what I'm actually doing, right? But since then, I think back at the time, one of the main differences was back in those days, right? In 2012, most of the investors are, I think, kind of similar to any new industry that happened in Indonesia, where we mainly is very few investors, primarily from abroad. Even local investors not been that much, right? By the time, mainly just a couple of countries, primarily been one of those guys are the one that been believing in Indonesia since the beginning. For example, like Japanese investors, we've seen a lot of Japanese investors are become seeding the industry back at the time, which most of them are probably more involved in seed or Series A. And back at the time, because number of investors think supply demand, economics 101, right? Number of investors not that much, number of companies not that much. That's why, for example, back at the time, I remember, for example, one of the largest company in Indonesia called Bukalapak is one of my first investors, and Mas Fajan, which is basically my boss at MDI, actually pitched to me by the time. It's been a while, right? And by the time Bukalapak raising only Series B round, which is at the moment usually around $100 million to $200 million raise. Back at the time, it was only $3 million at around like $5 million pre-money or valuations, right? Now it's Series B round is like $100 to $200 million, right? So that's how fast the cost has been growing, especially I think in Indonesia back at the time, because it's very nascent. We don't have much talent there. So back at the time, most of the companies or even people that starting off in the industry are not someone that have been running any tech or startup related business. So for example, some of those guys like in the early like Tokopedia, the founders are just another engineer in one of the IT companies, not startups, but somehow miraculously creating a billion-dollar business, right? And then eventually, we started to see a lot of more interest of the space. We started to see a lot of Indonesian founders from abroad that coming back to Indo to start the companies, right? But at the time, nobody are really doing startups as well. But since then, it's really be able to cultivate the industry and allows us to be able to bring companies like Gojek, Traveloka now already preparing. For example, like Gojek merged with Tokopedia, become GoTo, now are preparing IPO of $29 million, right? And we're starting to see a lot of other companies like that, right? So we see that the companies industry been developing like so fast. Back at the time is in 2014, 15, for example, the first unicorn happened, which is Gojek. It's only one. Now we currently have almost 10. And 5 of those actually just happened last year. So that's how fast the industry been growing. And I think the last point is primarily related to COVID, right? I think COVID been accelerating a lot of the adoption related to the digitalization, which allows the market been growing really, really fast since then. And we expect that particular momentum will continue moving forward as well.
I see. And in terms of MDI Ventures itself, right, as you said, like the development of the tech investing is actually like very quick at these times. So what what does MDI do actually in promoting this startup ecosystem and help them building, to be like a unicorn or sunicorn?
Right. So we believe that this is the industry is also a community and also an ecosystems, right? What we mean by ecosystem, that there's a life cycle of every company. So for example, when you start a company, you may have different challenges, you may need different solutions. When you already have the product, you want to launch the product and sell the customers, you may have different set of challenges and opportunities, right? And so on until you become, so big and going IPO at multi-billion-dollar business, right? And the idea was primarily for us at MDI, we really want to be the end-to-end partners for these companies or founders throughout the life cycle, which we primarily have multiple initiatives that allows them to support. For example, when you only have just an idea, for example, you really want to create a company, or you just have an MVP. You don't know whether this product is good or not. You only just, even like matter of idea, we have an initiative called Arise, for example, right, where we primarily be able to back them since the beginning of their journey, right? Then, say for example, you already have a product, you already start launching it, but you may need more assistance to really be able to reach product market fit faster. We also have like an accelerator incubator program called Indigo, right, which is managed by MDI and together with Telkom. And once you be able to have the product, you already sell the product, you already have pretty sizable customers, then you want to grow the company into the next stage. Then you have another fund called Centauri, which allows us to be able to write checks for that particular part, right? So you already have pretty sizable growth. You're already pretty strong in one particular region. For example, in Indonesia, you want to expand to multiple other markets, or even you want to strengthen your position there with multiple other new product. Then you also have MDI as a, so to speak, like growth stage vehicle to help them, right? And then once they want to already getting bigger, they may look for much stronger and what you call it, their partners to grow together. Then Telkom also as a company potentially could buy them or acquire them to be the next partners, right?
Yeah.
Throughout this multiple journey, we also working together very closely with Telkom to also help them optimize their business and also their opportunities through collaboration with our partners, which is Telkom. And also Telkom itself is not just one company. So we actually have multiple significant size of subsidiaries under us with multiple businesses, which we hope that we'll be able to partner with them throughout this multiple life cycle. We hope that we could bring highly beneficial value and solution to our customers and allow them to be able to grow much more sustainably moving forward.
Yeah, it's interesting because like you said, like nowadays, like there are a lot of like liquidity coming to the market, right? So yeah, in terms of differentiation between like other investors in the market, like what do you see how MDI positioning itself?
Right. So I think at the moment, right, given the Indian, fundamentally that especially from the start standpoint, looking at the investors, mostly what they are looking are the capitals, right?
Yeah.
But the capital is coming with a caveat, right? Some investors will just put money and then go, expect them to, just pray so hard that this guy will be able to succeed and then somehow give me the money, right? There are some investors that, very cautious with what they do. So they probably put the money, but they may not they may not just let them do whatever they want. They probably just keep regularly checking with them, assure that this company and in a certain level not screw up, right? But there's also another investor that type of investors which we are trying to position on is to be the investor that be able to drive, so to speak, like value creations, right? The way we define value creation is through, we could say, like 3 initiatives that we usually do. We help them to navigate in terms of the overall strategy, because the idea was primarily because as an entrepreneur and founders, you've been solely focused to build your business. You may not really understand or aware what happened in your surrounding, right? So we're trying to give that particular insights to them so they will be able to think about, hey, say for example, I'm initially just doing say like a marketplace for, let's say, a building constructions, right? So for example, I'm helping these multiple construction company to digitize and buy their products through my platform. But if you only think about that particular point of view, then you only just help focus on hey, how I can sell more stuff to these particular stakeholders, right? But if they think about further, they actually other potential solution they could do, for example, giving them financing, right? Helping them in sending the goods that they've been sold through logistics, or say, for example, helping the supplier be able to market the product better through advertising product, for example. So this particular solution, if you may not fully aware, and we are trying to bridge that, right? That's the first thing they usually do. Second part, obviously, in terms of access to capital, we primarily we are trying to be a long-term real definition of long-term partners, which allows us not only just with the current multiple vehicle platforms that we have, it allows us to not only just invest in one round, we primarily will invest in multiple rounds. From pre-seed, seed, Series A, Series B, Series C, pre-IPO, pre-M&A, we'll be able to help them and bring them capital on that part, which the way usually we do with our partners or founders, usually when they ask, hey, when is the best time to meet MDI, I will always say it's any time, because any life cycle that you do, we could be able to support you with our capitals, right? And the third part, primarily, which is one of the most valuable you usually give, is primarily related to the value creation in terms of the collaboration with the partners that we primarily have, which is at the moment the biggest partner we have is Telkom Indonesia, which is the largest telco company, not only just in Indonesia, but also one of the largest one in Southeast Asia. And not only just telco, Telkom itself primarily have multiple other digital businesses, which allows them to be able to tap into these multiple customers, resources, infrastructures, which allows them to be able to grow much faster. So the idea was primarily after we give the capital, they will be able to, the value that we could add is just not just one-to-one, meaning that we put $100 million, then they will get $100 million. We hope that with $100 million or $10 million we give, they will be able to get value, $50 million, even $100 million value on top of it, because not only just a capital, we'll also be able to add more additional tree value, like I mentioned, to them along the way.
Interesting. And how about the sector itself? Do you have any specific sectors in terms of the industry that you look at?
So sectors, as you know, that in Indonesia, I think the good part is in Indonesia, our Southeast Asia in general, right? There's so many problems, right? They just, for entrepreneurs, problems always means opportunities, right? Meaning that the problems always be the main reason why entrepreneurs exist, like why they should be there is primarily to solve the problems, right? And in Indonesia, I think the interesting part in Indonesia was not, if you primarily go to the multiple other markets like US or Europe, the problem is getting more and more, sophisticated, because I think most of the basic needs are they being covered. While for Indonesia, even some of the basic needs we don't have it. For example, financial service, right? Like we still have relatively low banking penetration. Like number of people who have bank accounts is still very low. Not even that, if we are trying to deep dive in terms of what you call it, the people that, so to speak, not only just financial have financial literacy, but they primarily also not only just unbanked, tapi, so to speak, like underbanked, meaning that you already have bank account, but you still have a very limited access to overall financial product exposure. Say, for example, you have bank account, but you don't have, let's say, the credit card, you don't have what you call it, the mutual funds or like stock investings, right? You have very limited financial exposure, or so to speak, like under the bank, we actually have very low numbers on that part, right? Yeah. So that way we see that even that particular problem, the basic problems or issues hasn't been solved, right? So we see that obviously financial service is very interesting. Second part, obviously, the thing that we've been starting to look further and start to see some pickup is primarily related to agriculture, right? Because Indonesia is very unique. We are tropical countries. Technically, by the time our ancestors always say that anything that you seed will eventually grow in Indonesia. That's why by the time we also one of the biggest hub of agriculture and commodities back in those days, right? And also we have more than 50% of our workers are farmers. So we believe that these underserved, what you call it, stakeholders need to be empowered, which at the moment using a conventional approach might not be the best way to do it. We believe that multiple digitization approach, for example, digitizing the farmers, giving them more access to financing, helping them selling the product better, improve their productivity and increase the yield through the tech, it allows them to increase the overall value creation of the economy. So that's why we thought that's one of the problems that we're trying to solve. Another part, for example, is infrastructures, right? Infrastructures could be, let's say, like logistic. We have the most expensive logistic costs over the GDP all over the world. We primarily closer to like 20 to 30%, simply because it's a very challenging. We have a very rich yet challenging geography. We are in archipelago structures where mostly are sea, and we have a very rich type of islands, right? So that number of islands, that's why it's not just building the roads, but you need to build the port, you need to build the airport and etc. Right? So that's why we think that a better optimization of through technology for logistics will be something that we've been seeing on. And the last part was primarily, I think, related to COVID. One of the biggest wake-up call, not only just Indonesia, I think most of the countries, we realized that our healthcare system is far beyond the basic level that we need, right? Or we should have, right? For example, number of beds over patient or number of doctors over patient we are obviously far below. And the tricky part is in this particular metrics, like number of doctors or patients, number of beds over patients require a significant capital and time. For example, you cannot produce let's say, for example, 1 million doctors in a day, right? You need time. For example, you need in order to be doctors, you need 6 years, 7 years just to be a GP. You not just only talk about GP, right? You need specialists. If you want to be specialist, you need another 2 to 3 years, even 4 years, right? So technically, net just to create create a specialist doctors, you need like 10 years of studies, right? So that way, but while the problems or the healthcare expenditures and the necessity keep increasing and double fold, if you really think about, for example, overall costs that we actually spend, one of the only costs that never goes down is healthcare and also education. It never goes down. It always keeps going up simply because the demand and supply can catch up, right? That's why we need to be able to offer a very strong digitalization solution to be able to increase the productivity of the doctors. So that way, initially, doctors, for example, with the conventional way, only be able to cover, say, for example, 100 patients. With the technology, we hope that they will be able to increase to like 200, 300, 400. So that way, the multiplier effect will be much increasing. So that's some of the sectors that we've been looking very closely in the past couple of years for MDI.
Yeah, as you mentioned, like we are currently solving the problems that have been solved by other countries before, right? So beyond Indonesia in the future, like what do you see or where do you see the geography that will be interesting to invest in?
Right. I think at the moment, obviously, Indonesia is the central for Southeast Asia, right? Primarily simply because we have the largest population, largest economy, the biggest number of problems, right? We have so many problems in Indonesia, so we see a lot of opportunities.
Good problems, right?
Which is good problems, right? For us to solve and again allow us to exist, right? But we've seen similar kind of like the challenges and also opportunities in other markets, neighboring markets. For example, the markets that getting hot is Southeast Asia, primarily like Vietnam, for example, and also Philippines. Those two been starting to get more and more spots simply because obviously by numbers, although they're not as big as Indonesia, but they're pretty sizable. Like for example, Vietnam is primarily 100 million plus population. They have a very close ties in the trading relationship with China, so they probably have a lot of what you call it, access to that particular lane, right? Philippines, it's primarily also what you call it, they have a pretty sizable population. The economy is also thriving, and also adoption of digitalization, demography, where a lot of young people there as well. So we see that these two markets starting to pick up more companies, and simply because they have a pretty similar development like Indonesia, we've seen a lot of companies that doing pretty well there, actually similar what we're actually doing in Indonesia. And most of the investors that been actively investing in Indonesia or Southeast Asia in general and overall, they're primarily looking for, for example, if they want to invest in Vietnam or for example in Philippines, they're looking for, hey, which companies that have been doing pretty well in Indonesia, proven, right, doing well in Indonesia, then they probably have conviction that might not be exactly the same, but at least on the thesis level, they probably might probably doing well as well in Vietnam or Philippines, right? So we hope that that particular trend will came up, and primarily also I think from the other point of view as a validation, a lot of companies in Indonesia are when they have been when they are getting bigger, they're trying to reach a market like entering market like Vietnam and also Philippines as one of the first entry. So that way they see that as a validation that they also be able to replicate the model from Indo to other markets, right? So that's why I think that primarily the markets have been developing on. I think the other markets, obviously, primarily they've been on par or even actually harder on overall is obviously LATAM and so India, right? I think primarily those two markets have similarities in terms of development, where they're still developing countries. Very young population, very tech heavy, thriving economies, right? Relatively stable in terms of the political and geopolitical. So we see that that's become an investment destination for those companies or investors around the world, similar to Indonesia.
And you mentioned earlier that you're a partner of MDI Seed Fund, right? So can you elaborate more, like why you decided to, start investing earlier?
Right. I think the most of the people might think that, hey, most of the investors are starting earlier, and then eventually they will when the market's being developed, then they will primarily investing in much larger stage, right? We just primarily similar to MDA. Initially we primarily focused on early stage. Then with once our funds getting bigger, they will primarily start to shift more investing to much later stages, which is simply from an economical standpoint also makes sense, because say for example, back at the time you only manage like what, $50 million, $100 million, then it would be make sense to write checks, for example, like $1 million to $3 million. That way you probably end up having around like 20 to 30, 20, 25 number of portfolios. But what you have like $300 million, $400 million fund, doesn't make any sense at all to spend that money, which is primarily if you invest earlier, they may not be able to absorb the money, right? So we see that most of the investors that been we could say that seeding the industry 5-6 years ago, they've been doing pretty well. So that's why they probably raise more money, and with that money, they probably start to shift the what you call it, the focus to be much bigger, much later type of stage, right? Which we realized that primarily makes the so to speak like crunch, meaning that it's very much easier to raise like Series A, Series B, like $5 million, $10 million, compared to raise your very first round, because and also back at the time, I think they also have a perception, hey, investing in a seed is very risky, but especially back at the time, the founders is not that developed. It's very nascent, very early, so that's why it's very risky for them to invest in that early stage. So that's why they with that particular consumption, they've been starting to see much more traction or success with investing much later stage, right? However, from our point of view, now essentially it creates opportunities, right? Because most investors are not investing in seeds, so that's why we don't have much competition in terms of the early stage, right? But second of all, the markets are very different. For example, compare even my personal point of view when I was doing it in 2012, the type of founders is very different. Now, I think back at the time, we don't have founders that have experience to run startups because no startups at all at the time, or even the high quality, someone that being perceived as high quality founders usually are Indonesian people or someone that studied abroad or coming from Ivy League, Harvard, Stanford, those kind of top schools in the US or other top markets, and then they probably go to back to and start a company, right? But even these guys, right, they don't have experience to run tech companies before. But now we have a lot of knowledges, local champion, local companies, Indonesian companies that become a unicorn or even decacorn level. But we still see a lot of regional, even global companies having their more presence in Indonesia. That way, they're probably starting to hire more and more local talents, which primarily these multiple professional or leadership in these particular companies are starting to think, hey, I want to start a company as well. And the way they execute is very different than before. So that's why when we start investing in the seed round and pre-seed round, the way they execute is very different than what most of the founders did it in 5-10 years ago. And obviously the last part was primarily back at the time when we invest in seed, most people invest in seed, the only strategy that they do is somehow called spray and pray, meaning that when I invest, I just pray so hard that there will be someone that will invest in the next round, right? Or another harsh point with family is a greater fool game, right? Meaning that when after I invest, I'm hoping there's someone fuller than me that will invest in the next round, right? But today is very different world where and one of the only industry that everybody could win. When there's a seed investor, seed investor, seed investor, seed investor. So as a seed investor, you don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. You don't have to predict that much. You just have to chat with the Series A guy, Series B guy. Hey, what kind of companies that you want to look? What kind of company you should invest? Then I would just invest in similar companies that you want in seed. So that way, the way they escalate the business much faster. Having said that, we've seen there's particular problems and opportunity at hand. That's why we think that investing in seed will be the best time at the moment. And so far, we've only been running the fund, I think, since September. We have around closer to 10 portfolio, and 6 of them already raised external capital. And currently we are looking at around almost closer to 4 times MYC, which is money on invested capital, and 100% full funding rate. And the investors that investing in next round also high caliber investors. That's why we see that the model been proving, and that's why we want to just scale that model moving forward as well.
I see. And as we see, like these days, like there are a lot of like tech companies that are going IPO, right? So what are your views on that?
Obviously, it's a good thing, right? I think IPO it's a milestone that shows that the company are credible and what you call it, the have a very already big enough to be able to absorb such larger capital, whether it's institution or sizable number of what you call it, public or retail investors.
Yeah.
And also, I think one of the milestones allows the company to gain much more credibility, right? Because there's a lot of requirement, especially in governance compliance, to ensure that the company are legit to go to the IPOs, right? However, the main challenges with this is at the moment is the shift of mindset, especially for Indonesian companies that mostly investing in what you call it, conventional business, where the level of or expectation of growth is different. Like for example, in tech, what we define as fast growing companies is not 20-30% year-on-year growth for top line and bottom line. We are expecting 20%, 30% growth month-on-month, or we call it like even like CMGR, compound monthly growth rate, right? And we are okay with what you call it, losses or having a company not generate profit yet in order to get the growth, right? Which is just something that become challenges for these companies to really be able to grow abroad compared to what happened within market like Nasdaq or other US based tech companies, right? However, I think the other things that people also need to be much more open-minded is because the public tech companies already been around for a while, since for example .com crash, right, just in 2000, people already have a sizable learning curve from there, which is basic accumulation around like 22 years. So people are starting to be able to be more sophisticated in terms of investing in tech, right? So they start to understand which company that, so to speak, like burning or losing, posting a negative, what you call a P&L, negative profit for the sake of burning, or the one that burning or having a loss with a purpose, right? Meaning that when they are currently state at the low state, they have a clear indication and ability to reach profitability when they want. It's just a matter of sacrifice, right? If they want to continue the growth, then they prefer to keep the losses first to get the market dominance. But if they want to be profitable, they could do it anytime they want. So it's not a matter of how but when, right? Well, there's also some other companies that unfortunately, and people start to understand and realize, no matter how big their scale, they won't be able to be profitable. And this is the type of companies, which is including the companies that they don't like. That's why I think some people see that and perceive the public market as very conventional. They don't look for this type of high growth companies. But from my point of view, these guys also need to be open-minded, that these investors also start to understand the differences between companies that losing just for the sake of losing, or some companies that burning that but have a clear purpose on how to be sustainable. Because in the end, companies, why you build the companies, you need to create profit and bring and adding shareholder values, right? If you don't be able to demonstrate that, then what's the point? That's why I think the tricky part or the challenges now is for any companies that going IPO, they need to be able to clear path to profitability, have a very strong and robust foundation where the unit economics is sound and all the overall business model already being developed very well. So that way, when they go to the public markets, they will be able to demonstrate that particular ability. So that way, the investor confidence and momentum can be maintained, and that way, the stock performance could be performing well instead of being stumbled even from day one. That's primarily some of the things that I saw.
I see. And my last question would be, now, what are the tips for the investor or startups out there? Like, why Indonesia and why now is the perfect time for them to invest or to make a startup?
Sure. I think one of the points is, for example, if you are not based in Indo and you're primarily looking at Indonesian market from outside, or even you're Indonesian but you're still thinking about like, hey, when is this the best time to do startups? From my point of view, is 100% yes, even 110% yes. Why is that? Is first, I think we believe that Indonesia have advantages as developing countries where we tend to be late and most of the thing, which is a good thing, primarily because we will be able to learn from the other developed countries, right? And we always believe there's a, so to speak, like a time machine theories, right? Anything that happened in developed market, potential will also happen in developing markets, right? And at the moment, Indonesia, especially in startup ecosystem, it's at inflection point where we will expecting a significant and robust growth in terms of overall metrics, similar to what happened in for example in the US during .com, or what you call in China during the early days of, for example, like BAT, like Alibaba, Baidu, and Tencent, which we are expecting we will also have that. We currently at that particular piece, which is one of the early signs that we saw. Is primarily last year we are having we currently accumulating around almost 10 unicorns, which is half of those only being developed last year. Right? The second part, I think, compared to like 5-6 years ago, even 10 years ago, is the market is getting more and more developed. Number of investors is immense. Not only, and we have investors that be able to cover all the stages that they need. The ecosystem is being built. Number of talents is more. Obviously, still challenges, but at least better than before. And a number of opportunities is also immense, given that the what you call it, the adoptions is in terms of digitalization is bigger, right? And the last part, obviously in terms of there's just the momentum, right? But the last part fundamentally still is just Indonesia is such a lucrative market, right?
Yeah.
We have a very strong demography, mostly are very young, very tech savvy, and also very productive as well. And obviously not only just we have a lot of young population, but we also have a very significant populations, right? We have more than 250 million populations, mostly online, high spender, very tech savvy, and also very adaptive as well, both for businesses and consumers. And the last part, obviously, in terms of the economy overall, and also the government itself is very stable. We don't have any geopolitical issues before. Our economy is very resilient. Even 2009, most of the countries are posting negative GDP growth. We still be able to be relatively positive in 2009, even during COVID, with most of the investors are expecting a whole year of negative growth. Indonesia, we still be able to post despite it's small, but still be able to continue the growth, right? So we believe that with this multiple momentum and fundamentals, obviously this is the best time for people to invest and also be a founder, especially founders, to be founders in Indonesia.
So it's not too late and it's not too soon.
This is the beginning, man. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay. Thank you, Aldi, for
Likewise.
the insights. And I think thank you for your time as well, the audience, for listening to our discussions. And so I'll return this to the MC, please.
Can we ask questions here?
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
Sure.
Perfect. Actually, I just want to know if you guys invest in blockchain startups as well. What's the ecosystem going on for blockchain startups in Indonesia and other parts where you're investing?
At the moment, thanks for the questions though. At the moment, we don't have, we only have one, so to speak, a blockchain related startup, which is primarily a crypto exchange, right? We primarily have investing pretty crypto exchange in Indonesia, which primarily focusing on buying and selling a crypto, right? But for a blockchain specific companies that, offering multiple use cases, we don't have it yet. Why? Because from our point of view, I think at the moment, obviously the market is very hot, right? I think a lot of people are burgeoning, going to do and entering Web3, right? Whether in the form of NFT or multiple other opportunity related to blockchain and crypto. But from our point of view, is at the moment, in order for I think more on our side, right? I think the market is very very strong and robust in terms of momentum. But only from our point of view, if you want to win what you call it, the opportunity at hand, we believe that we need to be able to accelerate in terms of our learning curve and also proposition to these multiple founders. That's why we think that having an exchange first, and an exchange that relatively robust in Indonesia in terms of community and also ecosystem, alongside with the number of users, will be very critical. So we think that we want to focus on this first. Once this company that we invest been growing really well, then we will primarily start investing in multiple other blockchain opportunities. So that way we'll be able to add clear value to them, not only just putting money, but we also be able to help them through this exchange. So you can say, for example, this blockchain want to issue a token, they will be able to go to us and primarily be able to access to multiple other type of users, so we could help go to us. So that's more on the strategy. But if you think about from the market, yes, in Indonesia we are adopting a lot. Just the tricky part with primarily is more on the use cases where we haven't seen much use cases that really robust, especially if you are looking on specific use cases in the market. Because if you think about general use cases, most of the companies that doing better is primarily not based in Indo, but primarily in the US or the market. So that's why we see that in Indo we haven't really been active that much active in terms of blockchain project or companies opportunities in Indo, because we haven't seen much that directly good, which is primarily that's why we started with the basic one, which is the crypto exchange first.
Okay, so if there is any opportunity proposed to you related to some new technology related to blockchain and NFTs, which actually I'm doing it. I have 3 companies, all are bootstrapped. One is IT company, another is NFT Boost, that is 1.5 million followers on Instagram, and another is 3D printer manufacturing company.
Right.
What I was looking is to start a token related to NFT Boost to secure the payments of NFTs and secure because there are too many scams going on in that market. So we are actually operating worldwide already. We have like almost millions of founders associated with us. So that's why actually I wanted to have a meeting with you, and maybe we can propose you some technology and you might be interested to be a part of that.
Understood. Thanks for sharing though. I think it would be great if you could share us the deck. I think we could send to my email, or just aldi.hartanto@mda.vc. Then after that, we'll review the opportunity and we could set up opportunity discussion moving forward after we review.
Perfect. And I'll try to meet you tomorrow. I asked Alec as well, Ahmed, to have a meeting with you.
Looking forward for that, man.
Let's see. Yeah, perfect, man. Thank you.
Okay, man. Keep on. Wonderful. Is there any other questions though before we wrap the session? Sorry.
Any other question or?
What about metaverse?
Okay.
One more. What about metaverse? What do you think about metaverse?
Sure. I think from our point of view, we definitely excited with the opportunity of metaverse, right? At the moment, it's more of what we are trying to grasp is primarily how. I think the end goal is clear, right? Primarily, we're expecting, I think, given that previously because COVID, I think people spending more and more digitally, but I think the end goal is clear. It's just a matter of the development that we are trying to grasp, right? Because I think as you saw, despite the for example like NFT, one of the use cases have been booming last year, including the ESG as well. I think the interest is started getting lower, reducing the number of transactions is also reducing as well. Overall, I think some countries still keep increasing, but I think globally, we still some indication that is in terms of lower. So that's why we're trying to grasp in terms of what will be the next momentum or development on the metaverse. Is it just primarily creating more? Is it primarily more on the? I think gaming is one of the first use cases on data, which is whether it's P2E or others as well. But is there any other use cases that be able to keep and the momentum of metaverse, whether it's just NFT or is it other opportunity where, for example, after you have the NFT, you could connect it with your games. So that way you'll be able to have a better, what you call it, the use cases for your NFT, not just, GPAC and others, right? Or for example, if you have a game, after you be able to do the play to earns, right? Can you be able to extend that particular universe beyond that your particular game? Can you do cross gaming and etc.? So that way the use cases keep alive, right? Because for example, if you think about overall game, the life cycle of gaming usually probably only a couple of years, right? It's not being last. So that's why if we really think that the metaverse will exist, like say for example, they will replace social media, right? I think we just have to ensure that we have much wider and also bigger use cases. So this is something that I think in the end goal, we are very excited. We just primarily want to understand and grasp what would be the phasing and development in the middle of that, right? So that's why we could see what kind of companies we should invest in order to support that particular phasing in order to reach the end goal of the metaverse.
True. I totally agree with you. These days, all the metaverse are totally dependent on gaming, and they're not bringing any different use case. What we are trying to do is connecting it with the real life, and trying to eliminate all the fake products which are running in the market. So we'll discuss. We'll have a good meeting for sure. Let's have a meeting tomorrow. Perfect, man. Thank you.
See you around.
Thank you. Yeah, I think if there are no other questions, then we can close these sessions. And I'll return this back to the MC. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sarah, our moderator today, for such very interesting and smooth discussion. And also to Mr. Aldi, our great speaker. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, experience, and expertise. It's such enlightening to see such a sharp, young, and talented entrepreneurs. Proud Indonesian indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, big applause for our moderators and our guest speaker today from MDI Ventures. This is the end of Business Matching. Thank you for the audience that have participated actively. On behalf of Telkom Indonesia and MDI Ventures, we would like to thank you for your participation. We still have business talk tomorrow, March 24, 2022 with Telkom Indonesia. For more details, please check the Indonesia Pavilion website, expo2020indonesia.id, and Telkom Indonesia Instagram @Telkom Indonesia. My name is Ira Menechini. Thank you very much. Keep following the COVID-19 protocol. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have a great day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Launched in 2015 and full operation in 2016, MDI is a corporate venture capital initiative by Telkom Indonesia, which is based in Jakarta with operations in Singapore and Silicon Valley. It provides seed-to-growth stage capital for early and mid-stage companies in Southeast Asia and globally. MDI has invested in over 50-plus companies across multiple emerging sectors, including healthcare, fintech, logistics, agriculture, consumer, and deep tech across 12 countries. With 5 main activities, MDI Ventures have developed an end-to-end investment ecosystem stretching from ideation to pre-IPO stage through multiple investment vehicles. We are currently managing several unique funds with a different angle, contributing to all stages of investment. MDI operates a set of multi-stage funds with separate, independent investment committees to efficiently administer the fund while supporting the startups throughout their life cycle.
We bring innovation and best practices from startup to accelerate telecom and national transformation.
To maximize portfolio value within Telkom Group, MDI developed a digital synergistic ecosystem within the corporation.
In 2019, MDI Ventures became the best performing corporate venture capital in Indonesia with a record 3 acquisitions and 2 IPOs. MDI is increasingly demonstrating its existence by successfully obtaining funding worth $500 million in 2020. For this achievement, MDI Ventures won the award as Indonesia Best Venture Capital 2020 and contributed to supporting startup breakthroughs in the pandemic era. With more than 830 million US dollars in assets under management, MDI Ventures is now the largest corporate venture capital company in Indonesia and will be over 1 billion US dollars by 2024.
By facilitating synergy with startup, we empower the growth of digital entrepreneurship and help build the region's startup ecosystem. We deliver synergy value for Telkom Group and state-owned enterprise by ecosystem building.
MDI Indonesia aims to be the preferred CVC in Indonesia by delivering growth for startups and for Telkom through impactful and transformative digital ecosystem building for the state-owned enterprise. We catalyze the growth of the best-of-class and proven startups by giving them access and opportunity to participate in the customer base of the state-owned enterprise.